Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Johnny Posh coming to you today in the first day of the studio build. So today the plan is to get the outline laid out. So what I'm doing here, as you can kind of see, I've got the 18 by 12 structure laid out. Now what's going to be happening here is this is going to be a floating floor. And what I'm doing is I'm using these rubber mats and I'm going to cut them up into small little chunks. And then underneath this 1x6 here, I'm going to place the mat just underneath there, all kind of along the outside of the perimeter. And this way you kind of get the floating floor effect. Now with a floating floor, the idea behind that is it kind of helps the sound to not transfer down into the floor below, which is kind of the goal here. I kind of want to have a very quiet recording room. This also kind of does help with the acoustics a little bit, kind of makes the bass stay in the room, so to say. So yeah, stick around for more of the progress. All right, so these are 10 by just about 36 inches long. So what my plan is, because the 1x6s are 6 inches wide, I want to cut these about 5 by 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this out, draw all the markings I need to cut these. So marking it halfway, 5 inches. Other side, 5 inches. Just gonna use this as my straight edge. Seems straight enough. I'm going to do the same the other way. Another thing you can do to save yourself some time is keep the tape measure here and just go every 5 inches. All right, that's all marked out, and let's get to some cutting. So as this rubber is kind of thick, it's a 1/2 inch thick, what I've decided to do is I'm going to use the jigsaw, and what I've done is I've got my pile of 2x4s here, kind of redneck engineering, but I'm going to run the saw blade right between here, and I've got a gap at the other end, so that I should be able to get a nice clean cut. I tried cutting this rubber before with an X-Acto knife. It was a little time consuming to say the least. So what I'm gonna do is just give it a try with the jigsaw, see what happens. All right, now, as this is using a dangerous cutting tool, make sure you're wearing safety glasses and some somewhat safe gloves. These are some just general hardware store leather gloves. Make sure you're always safe when you're cutting things. You don't want to lose any fingers. All right, so let's see how this goes. Like I said, first time trying it with the jigsaw. Hopefully this turns out all right. Let's give it a shot, see what happens. Now, right away, this is definitely working a lot quicker, but got the smell of burning rubber. So I think I'm gonna grab my safety mask, just because I don't want to be breathing this in too much longer.
All right, now we're back with nice ventilated mask. Like I say, safety is always important. Let's keep this going. All right, turned out pretty good. Not the straightest. That's okay though, it doesn't have to be perfect. So, just gonna continue cutting the rest of these into the squares. Got this god-awful rubber everywhere. But that's definitely a lot quicker than using the X-Acto knife. I found the X-Acto knife was ridiculously slow. A lot happier doing it this way. Yeah, so got a nice square there, and like I said, this will fit directly underneath here. So like I said, the idea, let me take this thing off.
The idea with the floating floor is like, as with audio engineering, you want to kind of engineer your mixing room as well. And acoustics are vital. Like the idea with this whole build is I want to have a nice flat curve on the EQ spectrum to be able to know that what I'm mixing is going to be true to all sound systems. So make sure you do your research when you are building your studio room. If you are building a studio, or even if you're a bedroom producer, you know, add a few acoustic panels. They're super easy to make. You can go online. There's thousands and thousands of different blogs and resources you can go check out to learn how to build your own, let's just say, acoustic panels to catch your first reflections or some bass traps and all that other kind of stuff. If you do your research, it will definitely pay off down the road as you're making music. One thing I wish I did 8 years ago when I first got into music production is focused more on engineering the room and getting a good set of speakers. Instead of buying all this gear and then buying all these plugins, just because I feel my sound would have, you know, been projected a lot more better across all sound systems at an early start, so to say. So yeah, make sure you do your research. I'm going to continue cutting these. I'll probably do a time lapse here or something like that, just so you guys can see all the cutting. Alrighty. right, once you got yourself a nice big old pile of those rubber things, next thing we're going to do is we're going to secure down all the 2x4s along the outside perimeter frame there. Get everything nice and square, and then we're going to put the whole framing on top of these. Also, check out the amount of rubber there. Kind of looks like someone did a burnout up here, but I like it. But yeah, we'll get to screen down all the 2x4s, making everything nice and square, and we'll go from there. All right, so got all the 2x4 screw down, and what I've done is you can kind of see here is I've got the 1x6, I've hung the 2x4 so that when I go to square everything up next here, I have something to screw down into here, and I'll just follow this board completely along. So I marked off every 24 inches because I'm going to do 24-inch studs up and down on the wall. So I've done 2 screws and then a screw in between, 2 screws, a screw in between, and then we get to this point here. So we've got the other end of the 1x6. This is still the same one as in the corner there. And once again, I've overlapped the 2x4. Haven't screwed this in yet. I'm gonna use a level, nice straight edge, try and get everything lined up nice and good, and then screw this down. I might even put a 2x4 on top just to give it some extra support. When you get to this end, same idea where I've overran the 2x4 here. Comes out, it's flexible now, so that gives me a nice, something good to screw down to. Now with this, when I do the floating floor, I'm gonna use a plywood layer to start, and I've gone with the 1x6 here because I kind of have a bit of a height restriction. So I've gone with this with the 2x4 on top, so this should be plenty of sturdy. Once you get the rubbers underneath, it should be good. And the plywood is getting screwed right down into there. So let's get everything squared up. All right, so we've got this board right here, nice and tightly secured, some nice triangle screws. That's nice and perfectly straight now. Now for the corners, what I did is I went this corner to the other far corner with a tape measure, checked the measurement there, and then I went from that corner to this corner, checked the measurement there, and they should be the same. So I am bang on the same, so everything should be secure. And now what I'm doing is just tying in all the corners, and this thing should be perfectly straight then. All right, all the corners are secured, everything is nice and straight. So the next thing I'm gonna do is on this board right here, I've got a laser level there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark halfway on that board there. And then because this is somewhat of a vaulted ceiling, I'm gonna line the laser level up, mark halfway on this board, just so I can have this perfectly centered to the room, because when I go to build the walls that are coming up this side, so to say, and the other side, you want them to be symmetrical and nice and straight. And the only way we're gonna do that is with lasers. All right, we'll get this going. Okay, so we've got everything absolutely nice and squared up. What I've done is I've checked the measurement from each joist here down to there in all four corners. And then I checked the height from here down to there, nice and square. And all the measurements are bang on equal, so I know everything is perfectly square. Now this is where our rubber squares come in. So in this corner here, we've got everything squared, and what I did is marked each corner with a nice permanent marker, just so I know that this will always be the square area. And what I'm going to do is, you can see where these screws are on the floor here. I know there's going to be a joist there, and what my plan is I'm going to slide this perfectly centered underneath, just like this. It's kind of hard to do with a camera in my hand. Might have to do this. Hold on. There we go. Now we're getting places. So what I'm going to do, make sure the flat side is down, because I got this weird kind of corrugated rubber mat thing going on. So I'm going to go exactly halfway, lift it up, slide it in, try and get it as nice and squared on both sides of the board here. Now, once this is here and run all the way along, what that's going to do is it's going to act as like a spring. So it's going to be very hard for sound that is basically built up in the floor to be able to push down into the floor. So basically it's a spring. It's a hard spring. Rubber is a very good material for stopping sound altogether. So that's why I've gone with this idea of the rubber mat, just because it was the cheapest. You can get like things like mass-loaded vinyl and rolls of rubber and all this other kind of stuff, but I found it was really expensive. Whereas like one of those rubber mats was like $8 or something like this. So it's saving yourself some money for this. Hopefully it works. I've been reading online that this is a good way to do a floating floor. We'll see how structurally it is. If it doesn't work out, I'll just think of something else, or maybe just do a whole rubber strip along the whole bottom instead of just the little squares. Because what my plan is every floor joist, so I know there's a floor joist where every screw is here, that's where I'm going to place the rubber mats. Now with the corners too, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a single screw down into here just to kind of temporarily hold it in place. And then my next idea that I'm planning to do is along certain points, I'm going to have kind of a rig like this where it's a 2x4 screwed into the floor and rubber placed up against it like that. And then I'm going to screw it down into the floor just so this holds the whole structure in place. Because you don't want too many points, or in a sense like the sound to be able to transfer from this piece of wood to this piece of wood, and that's where the rubber comes in. And that's why I'm only doing one screw here, so I can get it into the joist just to temporarily hold it in. All right, so I'm going to go along, place all these little squares. I might have to cut some more, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I got every single little piece of rubber, kind of hard to see. Everything all whole way around. It's nice and elevated now. And as you can see, the sun's coming down, so it's just, I call that just about quitting time. So what I ended up doing, each corner I've got one screw going all the way down, and that's hitting a joist below. So I got that corner, the far corner, I've got one exactly 9 feet. I can't remember which one that is, somewhere there. Same on that side, all 4 corners. So that's basically the outline of the whole structure here. Hopefully the rubber does some good. Seems to fit very well, which is good. So with that being day 1, I'm going to call this day a quits and come back to it on day 2.